screen share again here. Okay. So this is Joe Tomaso when I'm speaking with Louise and Joe Pierce in regards to what happened in Apple Valley with David Crowley back on January 17th, 2015. The bodies of David and his family were found by a neighbor, Judy Prochnow, and her husband, Colin. Judy contacted Apple Valley PD, as you can tell right here, at about 12:56 p.m. They dispatched the cars out to the home, which was Sgt Dollstrom, John Broughton, etc., at about 12:59, and they arrived at the home at 4 minutes after 1 p.m. So at that time, they got there, and Sgt Dollstrom was the first on scene, and he saw, what was going on, and basically advised the AVPD that there were in fact 3 deceased individuals inside the home on the floor, and actually he used the words obviously deceased. You'll notice here on the incident report, you're going to see that the synopsis is the complainant reported seeing 3 dead bodies inside of the home next door, and obviously Judy is listed as the complainant. So now there's been some discrepancies as to what was said during that 911 call, and some individuals have put out more misinformation regarding that 911 call, and that Judy had stated that it was Judy has stated that it was a murder suicide right off the bat, and that the police ran with that and they dispatched the call at that, and they were going from the very beginning, and that's not exactly what happened. So we're going to go right here. This is the actual 911 call, and we're going to play a portion of that. And if you look right here, we'll put this in the description as well, but if you look right here, you'll see the YouTube address, and now we're going to play the beginning of that 911 call for you.
Police and fire, how may I help you?
Yes, this is Judy Prochnow, and I live at 1055 Ramsdale Drive.
Yes.
I think there's been a murder or suicide next door.
What's going on?
Okay, so now as you can tell, she plainly said there was a murder or a suicide next door. Now, the 3 of us are listening to the same audio that you guys are. So, Louise, is that what you heard?
Yes, murder or a suicide.
Okay, Joe, what did you hear? Joe Pierce, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go into the actual police dispatch now, from their dispatcher to the units, and let's see if we hear them say murder suicide. And again, we're going to include this link in the description box right up top that gets you guys right to there, and you can listen to the entire audio.
2933 Sam 14 for suspicion, 1055 Ramsdale Drive. Cop reporting suspicious behavior next door. Went over to the home to the right of the RP, sees dead bodies inside the house, dog inside, sees a gun in the house on the floor.
933, copy.
Sam 14, copy.
2933 additional.
Right.
According to the RP, residents have been out of town since before Christmas. Now there are Christmas presents out front, a dog inside, and what looks like possibly bodies inside, a gun laying on the floor inside.
Okay, so now obviously you just heard the dispatch audio, and there was nothing that was said regarding a gun on the floor. I mean, not a gun on the floor. As far as there was nothing said about murder or suicide, they did say that there was a gun on the floor and that the bodies were there as well. So that should take a little bit of that away. Also, we wanted to bring up the fact regarding the releases that were put out by the police department, because it's been said that Apple Valley Police Department, again, stated right from the beginning that this was a murder-suicide. This is the press release that was originally put out by Captain John Bermel of the Apple Valley Police Department. You'll notice this release is dated January 17th, 2015 at 3:30 p.m. At this time, they're calling it a suspicious death. And they contacted, BCA to come out there to assist them. Now, the very next day, we're going to show you this. We'll start off with David. There were the autopsies were done on the families. And this is David Crowley's autopsy, which was done. This is the hour, the hour and date of death, and then the date and hour of the autopsy. His autopsy ended at 11:50 a.m. So now we're going to go over to Kamel's, and Kamel's autopsy report, which is right here, took place at 8:30 a.m. We'll go back over to Ronnie's, and that took place at 8:20 a.m. Now we're going to go back over to one of the I believe it's David's. We'll go back over to that one. Nope. Okay, we're going to go back over to the Apple Valley Medical Examiner's Office. Obviously, they ruled this was a murder-suicide. And when they did so, Apple Valley did a second press release a day later on the 18th. And that press release plainly states suspicious deaths again up here. However, they stated, if you notice, they go over at 11:40, this was done. And they state that it was the result of an apparent murder-suicide. So the actual murder-suicide decision was not put out by Apple Valley Police Department until January 18th, after the medical examiner's office had done the actual reports. Now, the medical examiner's office also put out a separate press release, which also verifies it was a murder-suicide. This is the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's press release. And you'll notice it says the above individual, David Crowley, died as a result of a gunshot wound to the head. The manner of death is suicide, and Apple Valley police are investigating. We're going to go back over to the next one, which is for Kamel. And that states the above individual died as a result of a gunshot wound to the head. The manner of death is a homicide, and the Apple Valley police are investigating. And we'll go over to Ronnie. And again, the above individual died as a result of a gunshot wound to the head. The manner of the death is a homicide. Apple Valley police are investigating. So I don't know. To me, I look at these press releases and I see that the police department actually acted in accordance with the law, in accordance with proper investigation, that they did not state prior to the family, before any investigation or any autopsy, that the family had died of a murder-suicide. Are we in agreement with that, guys, or is there something anybody wants to add?
No, I'm in agreement.
The thing I'm thinking about is Judy, when she originally said murder or suicide, with it. They were either murdered all by somebody or one of them murdered each one and killed herself. So murder or suicide. She really didn't go outside of any realm of possibility. She didn't drive it anywhere. I mean, she said what she saw.
Right. Well, that's what we've all said. She plainly said a murder, which is totally different than a murder-suicide or a suicide. So it's either or. She's not saying it was a murder-suicide. Yeah, we brought that. We had, that's what we were talking about. That's what we're trying to make sure that the people that are watching this actually realize that Judy did not say murder. It was a murder suicide. The police were not dispatched to the home as a murder suicide. They were actually dispatched to the home as, you guys all saw, as a, as three bodies on the floor, and that was what was, right there in the open, and that was right in their, their
That's right.
police report.
That's the point I wanted to get in at.
And
Judy
also-
wasn't really driving it one way or the other. She left it open to the
Right, exactly. She didn't say it was one way or another. She said it was one or two totally different extremes. Exactly. So now, when they get there,
yeah.
we're going to show the report from Sgt Dollstrom right here. And you're going to see on January 17th, 2015. Actually, I believe this is from, this is Dahlstrom. On January 17th of 2015, I assisted officers with a suspicion call. It doesn't say murder suicide. It says suspicion call at 1051 Ramsdale. A 911 caller reported seeing dead bodies in the residence. I responded to the scene. I was met by a male complainant, which was Colin, in the driveway east of the house. He pointed to the front of the house and told me they were in the living room. I approached the house from the east side and I looked in the window. I noticed several obviously dead bodies lying on the floor near the front picture window. I noticed a black handgun on the floor as well. This is exactly what Judy Prochnow said. I noticed a medium-sized dog barking and running among the bodies. I advised dispatch of my findings and requested that the channel be restricted to radio traffic and only emergency traffic. I then took up a position on the west side of the residence and he waited for backup to arrive. The other officers went there. One officer ran around to the back. Now, listen, as we entered the residence, the decay smell was overwhelming. And the reason I want to point that out is the three of us are aware, as are many other individuals that have watched this case, that it's been said that the family was deceased for 7 to 10 days. Look at this right here. As we entered the residence, the decay smell was overwhelming. Okay. Now go down. After they stayed in the living room, in the main level, in the living room, we located 3 decaying bodies, 2 adults and 1 child. All were heavily decayed. Okay. And he noticed the writing on the wall at that time. He also noticed bloody footprints in the area between the kitchen and the living room. And they left this area undisturbed and they left the residence. So, the writing was there. The bodies were there. They were obviously deceased for more than 7 to 10 days, which the ME, came up with sometime around Christmas. So about 21 days. We have the same on that as well. Correct, guys?
Yep.
Okay. So now what we want to go in. What was that, Joe? Joe? Okay, I guess we lost him again. Okay, so now we want to go into, I believe the second thing we were going to discuss was the Dakota County ECU report. Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, wait, no. We wanted to go back into the missing hands and stuff from the autopsy. So it's been said that by individuals that David's hand was cut off while he was alive, or he cut his hand off, et cetera, et cetera. And that is not what happened. So, and it's just impossible. If anybody, I mean, you guys have all burned yourselves in the past. You've all cut yourselves in the past. Your first reaction is to pull back. And if you're cutting through muscle, ligaments, and, to separate a hand, it would be extreme agony. Nobody would be able to just sit there and have that happen. So let's go over to the autopsy report that I'm showing right now for David Crowley. You're going to notice left hand is initially sealed in an evidentiary bag. Upper arms, the distal right forearm shows intact, smooth ends of the radius and ulna, and irregularly contoured soft tissue, muscle, and skin. Okay, so that the right hand, the right forearm is intact, And the radius ulna, which are the two bones that are in your forearm, are indeed intact and they're smooth at the end, but the skin is irregularly contoured, and so is the soft muscle tissue. I mean, that's showing that it was pulled off, which is entirely possible after the body was going through decomposition.
By the dog.
Right, exactly. The dog, Paleo would have definitely did that. So now I'm going to go to a second portion of this autopsy where they talk about, everything that was separated. And wait, actually, I may want to go back to that first one. We'll go back over and right here. I believe there's something that says, they go into early to moderate decomposition is evidenced by skin discoloration, marbling, slippage, blistering, and mummification of the left hand and the feet. Post-mortem, so after death, animal scavenging is evidenced by the absence of the majority of the head and neck, apart from the posterior cabellarium and the overlying scalp, posterior neck skin and soft tissue and cervical spine, the absence of the right hand. So this is literally saying that the absence of the right hand was caused from animal scavenging. So we were also, people were also questioning, Ranya's arm missing. And I wanted to bring that up because this is right here as well. We're going to go right here. The body is that of a well-developed, well-nourished, appearing 43 inches long, 25-pound female child whose appearance is consistent with the reported age of 5 years old. Liver and rigor mortis are absent. The body is cool because it was refrigerated. Early to moderate decomposition is evidenced by skin discoloration, marbling, blistering, slippage, and partial mummification of the face, the left hand, and the feet. Apparent canine scavenging is evidenced by the absence of the right arm. I'll go over that again. Apparent canine scavenging is evidence, meaning they have evidence of animal scavenging, and that is what caused the absence of the right arm. Guys, I mean, this is definitely telling us that this was caused from the from the animal scavenging.
And they've got it noted that it's done post-mortem, so they know that activity was performed after death. So there was no one living with a pulse having their arm or hand cut off, hacked off, pulled off, or anything, because the science that the medical examiners use clearly state that they know the difference between whether it's done at the point of death, before death, or after death.
Right.
And that it's by the dog.
Exactly. And there were also rumors around. I mean, we can go through this whole autopsy report. Guys, the autopsy report is available all over the place online. For those who are listening, if you want to look at the full report, there's no evidence of trauma to any of these people other than the gunshot wounds. And, nothing that happened before they passed away. They weren't beaten. They weren't tortured. When you get an autopsy, they can see bruising. There's no bruising. There's no except for one fracture on Ronnie, which we know is most likely caused from Paleo's paw pushing against a rib when he was pulling on the arm. Because they said that people have said that a full-grown adult had physically ripped off Ranya's arm, and that is totally impossible. I'm gonna actually go and quote you guys some stuff really quick. How many pounds of force does it take to rip off an arm? For this estimate, they start with a lower bound and then estimated with an upper bound. The lower bound is given by observing that people of any weight can suspend themselves by one hand. Suppose the body weight is about 80 kilograms. The lower force of the body would then be about 800 pounds per square inch. So they talk about back in the day when criminals or traitors were hung in countries, and also when they used to draw and quarter them, and it's just impossible. They're stating you would have to use an 80 by 10 by 3 kinetic energy, and you'd have to have a speed of about 40 miles an hour per millisecond. And
Well, in the medieval times, they used to have like contraptions to rig up to horses, and like you'd be looking at some massive rig to no pun intended, to pull that off.
Yeah, they would pull them in all four directions.
Right, exactly. And that's not right. And that's go ahead.
They speculated they took the arm as a trophy. And if you put that into the story of how it plays out, if government assassins came in, would they actually take evidence of their kill with them so they could be caught with it? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Right. And they're saying that aside for a chimp or maybe a gorilla, there's no other even animal with the strength, that's going to take, like, I mean, I'm talking about, about the size of a human. There's no other animal that's going to have that's going to be able to do that. It would take at least 2,200 pounds, okay, to rip off an arm. You have not only the bone, but the ligaments and the muscle tissue, as well as soft tissue and skin. I mean, it's just, it's just impossible. Also, I think we need to point out, and we were, Joe, myself and Louise were talking about this earlier. And I'm sure you're aware, if a male, okay, the average male is going to be at minimal, a size 7 shoe. Okay. Put that against a 5-year-old's chest, and you're not going to get one rib breaking. You're going to get a series of you're going to have flail chest. So, I mean,
wouldn't you have like collapsed lungs and things like that, as well as severe bruising and basic crush injuries if you had someone heaving and pushing through their foot onto a small child's
exactly. That's
body.
What I'm saying. And there's absolutely not one of those who passed away had signs of trauma other than the gunshot wounds to the head. And granted, except for Ronnie's broken rib. Okay, there were no, and I mean, we're not just saying this. The reports are there, the evidence is there. We're giving you guys evidence right now. We're showing you the actual reports. We're giving you links to things that you can see. There's just all kinds of stuff that
we can also put the link in about the scientific studies that have been performed regarding indoor domesticated canine scavenging behavior.
Yep,
that
exactly.
Show exactly the targeted areas when this sort of behavior occurs. It's textbook.
Right. We're now going to be going over the Dakota County Sheriff's Electronic Crime Unit report, which you guys can obviously tell from what we're showing here on the screen that we actually have. So, and then this hasn't been out there really, except for in the Crowley Factor Fiction group in its entirety. So on January 17th of 2015, the detective, which is Shane Koklonos of the Dakota County ECU, assisted Apple Valley Police Department with a search warrant at 1051 Ramsdale Drive in the city of Apple Valley. Search warrant was the result of multiple deceased bodies being found in the residence. So basically, they found David's iMac in an office. They found the MacBook Pro in the kitchen. They found numerous hard drives in the house, as well as other electronic equipment, phones, etc. So Apple Valley Police Department decided that, because they wanted to find out what happened, and they thought there was a possibility that this stuff would actually, the answer would be in the hard drives, and it obviously wasn't. But they took photos of everything there, and I think we need to point out that prior to them, even when they before they even started going into everything with programs like Cellubrite and Blacklight and FTK, they actually went into the Apple computer that was found in the kitchen. This is the one with the note that was titled Myth that popped up when they were doing the fingerprinting. And what they found out was that, if you look right here, later examination of the device showed that the text document, which is Myth, it's right here, okay, had last been saved on December 14th of 2014 at about 4:10. This was 11 days before the suspected date when the family was believed to have been deceased. This was at 1:18 in the afternoon, which shows at least one of them, most likely David, was alive at that time. The screen was auto saved, or the file was auto saved after about a minute. The Mac actually auto saves it. They actually did a test, and it says they went in there and they actually opened up something, and it was auto saved after 60 seconds of inactivities. So everything they actually brought the computer in its awake. Oh, I'm doing this with my finger in its awake state and transported it to the ECU, meaning the awake state, the computer was on and powered when they transported it. This way they wouldn't lose anything. Now,
ECU being Electronic Crimes Unit, yeah?
That is correct. The Electronics Crime Unit, it's noted right here at the top, at the header. It says Dakota County Sheriff's Electronic Crime Unit.
Just don't want to confuse people.
That's fine. So here's a list of what was taken by Dakota County. They had the Apple iPhone 4, the black one. They had the SIM card. They had an Apple 5S. They had the SIM card for that. They had an Apple MacBook Pro. They had a 16 gigabyte blue USB drive from the MacBook Pro. They had the Apple iMac computer, which was from the office with the keyboard and the mouse. Western Digital hard drive, another hard drive from Western Digital there. There was a Lacey external hard drive, another Lacey external hard drive. It was a total, as you can tell here, of 35 items that were taken. So this is where we get into everything. The pre-examination procedures were conducted, and they documented and photographed photos from the iMac, photos from the scene, and other miscellaneous photos. The cellular phone forensics, they used a software and hardware from Cellubrite, and they extracted data from the iPhone. They actually took, for questioning, because people don't know what was there. So they went to the SIM card as well, or the SIM cards as well, and they extracted the phone book, the SMS text messages, the multimedia messages, email, instant messaging, the calendar, the apps data, pictures, audio and music, videos, ringtones, call logs, and browsing data. Now, people don't realize that when you delete something from your cell phone, you can go into your gallery, and you can delete a picture. There are still 2 more copies of that photo that are saved in your hard drive until they're overwritten when something else is saved there. And it has to be saved on that part of the disk. or that part of the hard drive.
Can I just interrupt?
Go ahead.
It said instant messenger, didn't it? Instant messages.
Yep. It
So
does.
that's like Facebook messages, WhatsApp messages, FaceTime messages, all those kinds of instant message.
Right. And that would also fall into the multimedia stage too, because those are all messages that can be sent from other applications like Facebook,
Yeah,
FaceTime.
it's not
Yep.
not just your standard text message, SMS message that you send from your cell provider.
Right. The other thing, since you brought that up, the other thing I was going to bring up too, you won't find, if you go in, if you're at home, I do this, I don't know if you guys do, but I do this. When I'm home, I have my phone set up on Wi-Fi. It's
Yeah.
not that I can't use the data, but I use the Wi-Fi at my home because it's faster.
Joe, you know we're always doing we're all like that because we're always on the phone with each other.
Right. And you know, it's kind of comical too. If you look, I actually was talking to Louise this morning and we were on the phone for probably about 40 minutes. And I said, just for ha-has, let me go in to my data usage to verify that, you know, it would or would not show up. We were using I was using Wi-Fi when I was talking to her, and this was at 9:49 my time, AM, and it showed my last use of my phone, period, and that was like literally cell phone, data usage, anything at 3:41 AM. So when you if you're looking at your phone bill, it's not going to show up on the phone bill that you used it. However, that's if you're on Wi-Fi. However, if you are on the actual provider network, it will show up. And that's what people need to realize. You may not see a phone call that the police department was able to pull, because even though you're on your Wi-Fi, it still shows up in the phone. It just doesn't show up on your phone bill.
But if you have the phone in your possession, though, you should be able to go into each individual app, like the Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, all those, and see if you have the actual phone. You can see them in real time when they were sent and what they consist of, right?
Exactly.
Right, exactly. So if you have the actual phone, you're able to. They also found, just so you know, they also found data from an application titled Day One, which we know are the electronic journals. Some of the actual entries were on the phone. The journal entries were exported into a readable form. This device appeared to have been owned and used by David Crowley. The text messages found on the device and the Day One entries indicated illegal drug use by the Crowleys. This information was forwarded to the detectives at Apple Valley Police Department for further follow-up. David Crowley also indicated in his journaling that he would stay up for many hours screenwriting for a movie he was working on. A review of the timeline, and this is really important, showed that the device was last used on 12/25/14, which also fits in with the MacBook and the message.
Exactly. And there wasn't anything after
Right, exactly.
that time either, was there?
Nope, not at all. So items 5 and 7, which were the two computers, were found to be the main devices that were used by David. The hard drive contained within item 7, that's the actual hard drive in the computer, and item 8 was removed from item 7 by Detective Jacobson. The items were examined by Detective Vaughn. Now, these are names that you don't hear out there because nobody's got this report. Nobody knows these names. So anyways, so then they need a blacklight report, which is another, and Detective Vaughn did that. And items 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 were all external hard drives, and they were connected to the Mac that was in the office. Okay. The drives were in a RAID configuration. And because of the RAID configuration, an individual forensic image of each device could not be achieved. It was determined that the drives could be connected to item 7 as they were discovered in the Crowley home on the 17th. And they were able to look at the contents that way, meaning they had the physical, they hooked it up the same way it was hooked up at the Crowley house, and they were able to see everything. So the computer had the hard drives contained data relating to the movie production and editing. Nothing further was done with the items. The forensic software and hardware from Celebrite was used to extract the data contained within item 14, which was the surface. No information relating to the deaths of the Crowley family was found on the item. Items 6, 15, and 18 were examined by creating a forensic image of the data using Access Data FTK Imager. These are all programs that they use to forensically examine your stuff. Okay. Item 15
I'm
was
glad that
found-
you highlighted that
Yep.
there's specialist forensic software, hardware programs that aren't really available to your average Joe. No pun intended, Joe and Joe.
No, but but here's the thing, they use these software and the hardware that goes with it to get the info off the phone. And like, again, I said, when I was giving you the example about using your Wi-Fi, there's no proof that somebody was using their phone if they're on Wi-Fi by the phone company. But if they tap your phone with that software, they can tell that you were doing something, whether it be texting somebody, talking on Facebook, whatever. It's all there. They actually used a list of passwords that were collected at the residence, and the proper password was indeed found and used to unlock the device. So because the internal drive couldn't be removed, they used the imager light, and they actually tapped into the actual device, and they got a forensic image of the data that was contained within. So they got pictures, they got text messages, multimedia messages, you name it, they got it. And these
Videos, audio,
exactly. And they're
all
not
those files.
right. And this is not stuff that's released out there. This is not stuff that they released in their FOI reports.
Exactly, because a lot of it is personal, or it's just not relevant to the case. It's like with the text messages with Chris Peck. It's not relevant to how David and Kamala Rani ended up deceased. So there's no need for them to include it in their report that wasn't even really a report for the public, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. Now, they did an FBX report, which is on the contents. And I want you guys to notice this too. Many other devices were previewed, and they used physical write blockers. So that was so the detectives didn't accidentally write something on the hard drives and everything. They didn't accidentally erase anything. And it says it right here, which protected devices from being previewed from having any data written or deleted from them. No information relating to the deaths of the Crowley family was discovered. The items that were labeled or appeared to be related to movie production were not previewed. So anything that said gray state, they didn't look at. So the conclusion, which people need to know, comes right in with the conclusion that we find at the end of the Apple Valley report, the very last entry by Detective Bone, which I believe was on October 7th of 2015, which I'm going to read that again when I'm done. But after reviewing all pertinent pieces of evidence, no information that was found specifically related to the deaths of the Crowley family. Information was indeed found that pointed to drug use between David and Kamel Crowley, and journal entries found on Mr. Crowley's phone indicated many sleep-deprived days for David Crowley. The evidence was logged into ECU and was released and transported to Apple Valley Department PD by the detective. Now, that's the thing, and this is why I wanted to bring up the very last entry on 10-7. So the very last entry on 10-7, okay, on page 101, Detective Brian Bone, this was at 1:08 in the afternoon, almost 1:09. And he basically says that he filed the original search warrant that the with the county clerk, along with the receipt, inventory, and the return form. With the conclusion of the review of the digital devices, that's what we just talked about right here. Okay, there is no other information available for further investigation. Throughout this investigation, the Apple Valley Police Department has not discovered any information or evidence that shows anybody but, and in this context, the word but means except, David Crowley is the perpetrator of these crimes, including the killing of his wife, child, and himself. And they closed the case with the status of exceptionally cleared. So let's bring that up too real quick. When a case is closed exceptionally cleared, it basically means that there is nobody to charge. Okay, most cases is the suicide of the offender. Now this term and the clearance codes are actually from the FBI uniform criminal reports that are done every year, or uniform crime reports that are done every year. Suicide of the offender is the person who committed the offense is dead. Okay, or double murder, where two persons, one can be charged or the other can be charged, they kill each other. Or a deathbed confession, the person who committed the offense dies after making the confession. 4, the offender is killed by police or a citizen. Okay, I mean, these are the only, this is the stuff. I mean, you just heard me go over the top 4 reasons for exceptionally cleared. It doesn't mean the person was innocent. It means the person is deceased.
So basically, the person that killed them is not on the loose. He's not out running around. He's been taken care of. The situation has resolved itself. There's no one else to look for.
Right. And that's why the police department, when they put out those releases, they said there was no need for the general public to be worried. It was an isolated incident.
Exactly.
I mean, I've heard so many things, and we're going to be doing other videos after this with even more evidence, and we're going to include links to what we're getting. We're going to include I mean, we actually have this stuff now. We're going to include links. We're going to include the evidence like we're showing right now, unless that evidence shouldn't be seen by individuals or can't be released to the public. I mean, there was a photo that was out there that was redacted. It was actually, it was given by mistake, and the thing went all over the place. We actually obtained a photo from a different angle, and we're not going to release that. That's disrespectful to the family. It's going to cause the family, their surviving family members, problems, and we're not going to do that.
I totally agree with that. We did release a portion of it showing the gun because that was called into question, but the rest of it is not for anybody in the public to see. That's just out of respect.
Right. What I think some people don't realize is that every time somebody connected with this case sees this, it's just bringing it back to the surface. So,
exactly.
I mean, I just can't believe that, people would exploit this case like it's being exploited. I mean, we just literally, in just this very first video, we have shown that through the reports and through the evidence that there was no mysterious third person. The government didn't do it. I mean, I just can't believe that, every time we turn around, somebody else is getting accused of doing it. I mean, I think there's been 15 people that have been like
I
pointed
counted
out.
over 20 last time. Last time I counted, it was over 20.
It's like they spin a wheel.
One
do.
thing that was glaring me in the face, Joe, as you were reading that, that's 35 pieces of computers, tablets, phones, hard drives, and it all contained his gray state information, everything they say the assailants were coming to get from him, the reason they were there in the first place.
Exactly.
And none of it, and it's all still there, logged and accounted for.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's just, I just can't believe, and the family, one thing I need to point out as well, there's been some talk about people trying to shop the movie around after the family was found deceased. I mean, I don't think people realize this, but there is an estate, okay, and the estate actually has a responsibility to try and market, I'll use that word, market, okay, that movie. The estate's responsibilities are to take care of matters that the individual who's passed away was either trying to do. You square away bills, you deal with real estate property, back taxes. That's what the executor of the estate does. That's their job. So, Louise, you still with us?
I am, yes.
Okay.
I just had been eating my tea, so I was muting myself and eating really quick.
Oh. Is there anything you want to add about what we're saying right here? Because I think we covered
I think we've covered pretty much everything on these topics, but I think also, like even though it says that in the electronics that they didn't find, what I would say is they didn't find any videos or any evidence that sort of lay out, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and this is a plan kind of thing. But that doesn't mean to say that there weren't things that were, say, an emotional level that could give you an insight, but you couldn't pinpoint it to say, oh, well, that's the reason why.
I don't think, I mean, we talk to Detective Gummer quite often, and we've talked to other people who have been connected with this case. And nobody knows why. There's one thing I think I also want to bring out in this video, because I find this kind of strange. Individuals that are trying to peddle misinformation about this case and what happened, in your group, okay, which is, Crowley Case Fact or Fiction, you have individuals that were directly involved in what happened and that actually knew the family. You have and not just do you have them physically in your group, but individuals have spoken to people that knew the family. And I just don't get how people who did not know any of these people can know what somebody is going to do or not do over people that knew them. And that when people that knew them come out and say the truth, they're blocked, they're kicked out of the groups. I mean,
Slagged off,
right, sla-
ridiculed,
exactly. You know, I mean,
blocked,
I
and then
just,
challenged.
yeah, exactly. You know, it's really easy to challenge somebody when they can't answer you. Exactly.
And
So,
why would they
Yes,
want
it
to?
is.
But why would they want to?
Yeah.
You know, this is their life, and this is something that happened to their friends. It's, you know, you might have been able to have had a discussion with them if they wanted to discuss something with you, but it's not, you can't have a debate with, what you're going to say, your friend did this, no he didn't, yes he did, no he didn't. That's not how you treat people who
exactly.
are grieving.
Yep.
And again, to those individuals that are watching the videos, these two videos that we just did, and you know, other videos that are on, you know, this YouTube channel, you need to go back and look at this stuff, because we're not just saying we believe this or we believe that. You've just seen documentation. You've just seen not only documentation, but you've seen, you know, other things that when you look at them, it shows you what really happened. You know, there's no answer why, but you know what happened.
I mean, also, we were going to bring up that you will often hear that certain people claim to have evidence that proves that David is innocent. Well, put your money where your mouth is then, and put that evidence out to the authorities and prove that there's an innocent man. Don't just sit on it.
Exactly.
Well, actually, let me just throw this out there. If I had evidence that someone did not do a crime, okay, and it was somebody that I was sticking up for or trying to get justice for,
Worshipping.
right, I would take that evidence and show it to anybody that wanted to see it.
But
I
then
would-
you've got to have verified evidence, remember?
Yeah,
Right.
so they won't take it seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
But if you had like actual backed up evidence that proved inconsistencies factually, not just your opinion, and you believed that that was the key to someone's name being cleared, why would you be going, well, I'm not showing it to you? Why
Well,
would you
that's-
be going to the police and going, have a look at this, or getting a lawyer, or, you know, finding out whichever channel you need to go to legally do? I mean, at the end of the day, we can't do jack with it. Do you know what I mean? We're just like some people in a Facebook group. We don't need to see it. But if you keep claiming you've got it, why aren't you giving it to the authorities and to people who can actually use it to do something
That's
with?
a great
And
point. That's a great point.
well, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly it. If you have evidence that shows this individual didn't do this, you should be putting it out there everywhere you can. But I think the real reason is because it's not evidence, it's opinion.
Right.
I agree.
Yep.
So
I mean,
You get
how
that
many
one over
years
over
have
the
we
page.
heard it?
listen, let me tell you something. This, I know you guys can see this, okay. There's a bunch of other stuff here too, is physical evidence. I mean, the photo we got, this report that we just showed everybody, okay, that supposedly individuals had but never showed. And I think that the reason it would that was never shown, if this report, if they actually do have this report, I believe that the reason they didn't show this report is because it actually shows the drug use. It actually shows the fact that David was up hours and hours and days, and that it leads people to believe that it, you know, what's being said by the authorities is the truth. And another thing I wanted to point out really quick is that you have Apple Valley Police, you have the Dakota County Sheriff's Department Electronic Crime Unit, you have BCA, who is nationally known and actually does the protocols for a lot of police departments and forensic labs. Okay. You have a private investigator by the name of Ken Maines. Okay. And the medical examiner's office, and everybody's wrong.
Dr. Kelly.
Right. Dr. Kelly. Yeah, there we go. Right there. You know, and that was kind of funny too. Dr. Kelly did an interview, which is all on tape, and it is witnessed, etc. We heard an interview with Dr. Kelly, but didn't hear Dr. Kelly. But Dr. Kelly took the liberty to write numerous people, including people that were accused of doing things, and said, no, that's not what I said. I said I agreed with the investigators 100%.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. And when you cherry pick the reports and pick out the pieces you want, that's not being objective. That's not an investigation. That is forcing a narrative.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. If there is a tape of Dr. Kelly out there, I believe that tape should be released.
I agree.
I completely agree. Yes.
But
I
think it's just like with this electronics report, either they don't have it or that baby got shredded straight away.
Exactly. All right, we've only got about 3 minutes left before this ends. Anybody want to get anything out there?
I think we've pretty much covered it to a level that's not overwhelming for people at the moment, because people can always contact us or come to the group if they've got any queries or points that they want to raise with us.
Yes.
I mean, we're
all are
open
welcome
for
to discuss.
Yeah. So that you can't debate facts. So
Right.
There's no point in having any kind of debate, because we're not going to go round and round on what ifs and what, ifs, buts and maybes, but we'll happily discuss factual information.
I also think that we should let the individuals watching this know that there are going to be more videos forthcoming with even more information, and we'll be answering quite a few of the questions that are out there.
We certainly will.
And it's not going to be opinion. It's going to all be evidence-based.
Yeah. As long as, it's not going to be tantalizing the, click here because we want your likes and we need you to look at graphic photos. There's nothing to prove.
Right. Anybody watching this video, you want answers to your questions, you have any questions, thoughts, comments, etc., feel free to join the Crowley Case Facts or Fiction on Facebook, or you can see the YouTube channel as well. There are plenty of videos on there and even more forthcoming that will show you further info.
There certainly is. And you can email at Crowley Case Facts versus Fiction @gmail.com. We've not blocked people, we're blocked, but as long as you haven't blocked us, you can message us or just unblock us. We don't bite.
Yep. Just come over and have an adult conversation about it. It's all.
So thanks for watching. And again, open your mind, look at what you're seeing. This is actual evidence.